Hey guys, I'm Julian, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite subject recently, which is FPV. In fact, we're going to be talking about the Teleporter V4 headset. Wait, nope. We're going to be talking about this guy, the Dominator HD V2, which was a big step up from these guys, and we're going to be doing a full review, so let's get right to the unboxing. Okay, now we're talking about this. Wait, even that's a little bit too involved, so skip right to the goggles. Here they are. Okay, so here's the actual case. That was just a little funny intro. And here we go. We're not actually going to do an unboxing because you're going to find plenty of unboxings in there. But I got these guys as a step up from my earlier teleporters. But you know what? I don't want to just compare these. I want to look at the rest of like a little bit of a broader comparison between other products in the FatShark line. So in addition to this, we're going to be checking out the teleporters. And you know what? Even that's a little bit too specific. So let's look at the broader FPV market and include the Skyzone V2 goggles as well. These are the FatShark Teleporter V4s. They are $250 when I bought them. They are now $200. These are the FatShark Dominator HD V2s. They are $520. And these are the Skyzone V2s, and they are $370. These are a 25 degree FOV, which is a little bit small. This is a 50 degree FOV, which is the biggest one on the market for actual goggles. And then this is about a 35 FOV, which is pretty average. FPV has really been my thing recently, and as you can see, we've got a fair bit of FPV stuff in there. Full disclaimer, this isn't mine. This is actually my dad's. He got an FPV with a pretty cheap setup, flying the ZMR 250 frame. But this is his setup. It's probably like the cheapest, most basic FPV setup on the market. Obviously, it's not a goggle. It's not a head-mounted display like a head player or like a quantum kit. But the benefit is that it's cheap and it gets you an FPV. The other thing is that you can find a lot of these screens with built-in receivers, like this one does. That's full 32-channel receiver. So if you're wanting to get an FPV but you don't want the expensive goggles, good option. And I'll put some links below in the video for where you can find screens like this. As for the goggles themselves, this is the Teleporter V4 from Horizon Hobby. This is the FatShark Dominator HD, available from most places like Get FPV, Ready-Made RC, Horizon Hobby actually, and a bunch of places that are probably reselling them as well. These are the Skyzone V2 goggles. They're available from most major retailers. Get FPV, I don't think that Ready-Made RC sells them, but you can find them at a lot of other places around the internet, not available exclusively from anywhere. If you want a small area to focus on, that's going to be, you want a small field of view. If you are really into an immersive feel, like maybe you're flying fixed wing or long range FPV, and you really want that sort of like wide screen to really get into it and really get into that feel, then you're going to want a larger field of view. This is a 25 degree field of view, the smallest field of view goggle on the market, and this is the widest field of view goggle on the market at 50 degree field of view. This has a 35 degree field of view. So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution of 320 by 240. The Dominator HD V2s have a resolution of 800 by 600. And both of these goggles are in the 4:3 aspect ratio. The Skyzone V2s have a resolution of 854 by 480, and they are in the 16:9 aspect ratio, which is the standard for digital video. The picture through both the Skyzones and the Dominator HD V2s is very good. In fact, I'd say that they're almost comparable. The only difference is that the Dominator HD V2 gives you a much wider field of view, and so you notice the clarity of the image a little bit more than you do with the Skyzones. The one thing that I will say is that they're a little bit more finicky in terms of how you adjust them, so getting that nice crisp and clear picture is sometimes a little bit more difficult with these than it can be with the Skyzones. The Teleporter V4s really hold no comparison to these two. It has a much lower resolution, and it also has a very small field of view, meaning that you might get a little bit of good resolution, but you really can't see a whole lot of that good resolution because the field of view is so small in the goggles. With the HD V2s, some people have trouble seeing the very edges of the screen in that they get blur on the edges, and that's actually because the screens that FatShark uses, the actual LCD screens, are a little bit smaller they're too small for the field of view, so it doesn't give you the optimal the optimal like movement. So that precise focal point for your pupil, as soon as you move your pupil around to see the edges of the screen, the screen itself inside of the goggles is not big enough to accommodate that, and so some people get blurring as a result. And the common solution for that is to use -2 diopter inserts or -4. And the diopter inserts, you can buy them, I think they're $19, and they come in -2, -4, and -6. And these are -4 diopters right here that I've got for my dad. You take them like this, you line them up on the inside of the goggles with this little groove, and with the numbers facing inwards for the diopters, you want to take them from this little tab and slide them in, push them all the way to the edges, and this will, and it'll correct for that blurriness that people sometimes get, at least the -2s will. The diopters, when you use them, actually make the screen or the field of view smaller. With the -2s, I've found that it's not all that noticeable, but you get, I'd say, anywhere from a 45-degree field of view to a 47-degree field of view. It's definitely not as big as without the diopters, but it's not as noticeable as if you put in bigger, like more effective, more aggressive diopters. So with the -4s and the -6s, the field of view is noticeably smaller. The Skyzones do not have those focus issues, but the field of view is not as big, and so you don't get as much of an immersive feeling. The nice thing is that with the 16:9 format, you can take advantage of digital cameras, but unfortunately, what the Dominator HD has that the Skyzones do not have, and this is where the Dominator HD really pulls ahead in terms of how versatile it can be, is the HDMI capability of the Dominator HD V2s, in that it can receive HDMI input. So if you're flying like a Phantom 3 or Lightbridge or an Inspire, or maybe even if you just like want to watch a high definition movie, the Dominator HDs can do that through HDMI. Whereas the Skyzones, with their 16:9 resolution, can't take advantage of HDMI, and so thus the effectiveness of their 16:9 aspect ratio is somewhat reduced. The other thing that we should talk about is receivers. Because a lot of people, they're running 32 channel or 40 channel 5.8 gigahertz FPV systems, and with something like the Teleporter V4s, you are locked into a single receiver, 5.8 gigahertz, that is only 7 channels on the immersion and FatShark band. And this means that if you're running a race band, if you're running Boscam, or if you're running a Lumineer brand video transmitter, and you've got 32 channels or 40 channels, you're not going to be able to take advantage of any of the channels other than what is built in here. So you're only going to have 7 channels that you're locked into. With the Dominators, they're modular, meaning that this little door here pops off, and you can switch out whatever module you want. Right now, I have in here the NextWave RF race band receiver, which is 32 channels. It doesn't have band F, but you get immersion FatShark, race band, band A, and band E. And you also can buy multiple different receiver modules to pop in and either change the frequency, meaning that you can go to 1.2 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz for video, or you can get the other bands on 5.8 that you don't get with this module. In addition to this module bay, you also get this module on the side for a head tracker bay. And we'll talk about head tracking in a little bit. Then the Skyzones actually are a little bit different. They've got a dual diversity receiver system, which, while they don't have race band or the ability to change between frequencies, it means that as opposed to just having one receiver, these have 2. And so what the advantage of having a dual diversity receiver is that you can have a directional antenna, and you can have an omnidirectional antenna, and so this means that if you're flying close in around you, the Omni is going to be taking advantage of behind you, whereas if you're flying out in front, you get a lot of good penetration because this helical right here, this directional antenna, is going to let you see further out in front than this Omni will. So diversity gives you diversity and versatility in terms of your flying options and in terms of the reliability of your video link. However, as I said before, it's not modular, and so you don't get the advantage of the Dominators, and there is actually a dual diversity receiver module coming out soon for the Dominators, but you don't have the ability to have race band or to change between frequencies. So if you want to fly 2.4 gigahertz or 1.2 gigahertz for video, you're not going to be able to do that with the Skyzones without having a base station. Now we're going to move on to head trackers, and both of these have built-in 2-axis head trackers. Both of them drift a little bit, not too badly, and drift is where you get a little bit of movement on the head tracking servo without actually moving your head. Now, the Dominators actually do not come with a head tracker, but you can buy the Trinity head tracker, which is a 3-axis head tracker, and it's supposedly a very, very good head tracking system. No drift, and all 3 axes, so you get pan, tilt, and roll. But it does not come with a head tracker. However, you can add one with the module bay. Now onto the fit of the goggles, and onto another big issue, which might be fogging, if you know video goggles. This, as you can probably tell, is different from these two, because these two goggles have rubber eye cups, and these eye cups are nice and soft, but there's a problem with that, and that is when you're flying with them for a long period of time, you come away looking kind of like a raccoon, because you've got these like rings around your eyes from the eye cups. And the other thing is that the eye cups, the lenses inside of the goggles can fog up, and if it fogs up, then you can't see where you're going, and that can be very dangerous if you're flying a long way out and you need to take your video goggles off to let them air out and to let that fogging clear. So fogging is definitely a very big risk when you're flying with goggles that have eye cups, especially in the winter. Now the Dominator V2s, the Dominator HD V2s address that problem with this, and this is a faceplate that doesn't have those eye cups. It actually forces all of that weight distribution on the goggles to fit over an entire area on your face. And in addition, they've got this little fan unit, which when you plug in the battery, it blows air onto the lenses and gets rid of any fogging, so that there is no risk of fogging happening at all when you're flying, which is really useful if you have had issues with fogging, or if you live in an area where fogging is prevalent, like if you live in a cold area or if you live in an especially humid environment. You just press this button and the fan goes, and there are these 2 channels right here that blow the air from the fan onto the lenses to prevent them from fogging, and that air escapes through this bridge on your nose. The fan faceplate I found is actually extremely comfortable. The only detriment to it is that there is a little bit of light leak down underneath the nose bridge, but it's not noticeable at all when you've got like when you're flying with a screen. The only time when it's noticeable is when you've just got the goggles on and nothing is on the screen at all and the entire thing is off. So the light leak from this, negligible. I would choose the faceplate over the eye cups any day, not only because of the fogging issue, but also because it distributes the weight on your face a lot better. This faceplate is actually available for purchase independently. It fits on the Dominator HD, the Dominator V2, the Dominator HD V2 and the Dominator V3 come with the faceplate pre-installed, and I believe that the faceplate also fits on the Skyzones, as well as these guys. You're just going to have to be careful of these central buttons with the fan. Now onto another thing, and that is the controls themselves. Now the Dominator, it's got a fair amount of buttons on here, and they're all fairly straightforward. And both of these use the same, more or less the same interface, meaning that you've got these push button toggles and these buttons for volume and channel. In addition, the Dominator has an independent button for head tracking. The Skyzones don't use, well, they use this, but they also use these, which are bigger push buttons. They're not as resistant to being pushed, so you might find yourself a little bit easier in pushing these, but these are more independently labeled, whereas these are not as specific. And the Skyzones, in addition, they've got them on either side, whereas with this, you're going to be reaching up mostly in front of your face the entire time. Now on the bottom, and if you can see, there's not a whole lot on the bottom here, but the big difference between these two is that they've both got these things, they've both got earbuds, they've both got these tracking ports for the head tracker, but the Skyzones have these slider thingies. And those slider thingies, and that's a mechanical term, that's a professional term, the slider thingies are for adjusting your IPD, which is your interpupillary distance, and that's been covered in a lot of different videos, so I won't go over too much in depth what IPD does. But the Dominators also have that. I actually prefer the Dominator's IPD adjustment over the Skyzones, just because it's easier to me to be able to adjust them. They're a little bit more free moving, and in terms of how you adjust them, they more or less stay in place. I'm not sure what the range is on the Skyzones, but I know that the advertised range for the IPD on the Dominators is 59 millimeters to 69 millimeters. I fly with them mostly pushed in all the way to the middle, which is, I think, how a lot of people will be doing it. Overall, the Dominators are a really good set of goggles. I like them a lot from the Teleporters, which is very much the low end of the spectrum. Of course, you've always got this, which is a good cheap option. Doesn't have head tracking, it's not mounted on your face, it's not going to be as immersive, but it gets you into FPV. And a lot of people like this because if they're wearing glasses, they don't have to fiddle around with diopter inserts, and they can just wear their glasses and look at the screen, and they can much more easily switch from FPV to line of sight if there's a problem with their FPV system or just with the aircraft. With these, they are immersive. They're $200, which is cheap for an FPV perspective, and I said this in my previous video about FPV, is that they're a very good initial foray into FPV. I stand by that. If you're looking at FPV, if you're not sure if FPV is for you, this is going to be a cheap investment. Well, for goggles, it's going to be a cheap investment, $200. That's going to get you into FPV. It's going to give you a good system that you can work with. And it's compatible with immersion gear. The only thing that I don't like is that you're locked into those 7 channels. The Skyzones are a good, they're $370, and they've got a 30-degree field of view, which is market average about, I'd say, 30-degree field of view. 16:9 aspect ratio means that 4:3 analog video cameras that most people use for FPV are going to be stretched out to fill that 69 image. Some people get a little bit upset by that. I'm not sure why. It's not much of an issue. Shane uses these all the time. I've used them a little bit, and it's really not a problem. The one thing is, I don't really like these IPD adjustments very much. This one is very, very stiff. I like the IPD adjustment on the Dominators a little bit more. The Skyzones do have this built-in camera which allows you to see what you're doing when you're at the field. If you put on your goggles and you're ready to go and you just plug in, you can turn on that camera in the middle. You can plug in your battery without having to take the goggles off. And they also have this dual diversity, which gives you a lot of versatility in terms of where you can fly, but again, you're locked into using the channels that they give you. You can't get a different module and change out your frequency. So these, I'd say, are a good in-between option. The FatShark equivalent of these is going to be either the Dominator V2s, which are now out of production, or the Attitude V3s. And the Attitude V3s are modular. They come with a 3-axis head tracker, and they have a 32-degree field of view with good optics. So if you're interested in something that's FatShark, that's not the Skyzones, the Attitude V3 is something for you to consider. The Dominator V2s are definitely top of the line. I love them, but they are not a very budget-friendly option. They offer you all the best specs on the market. HDMI is a very, very, it's a great feature of these goggles. It means that you can use it with digital inputs. If you're really planning to fly digital FPV, I would suggest going with the Dominator V3s, as they offer a 16:9 aspect ratio as opposed to the Dominator HD V2's 4:3 aspect ratio. But these really are top of the line. They offer you versatility in terms of what frequency and channels you're using. Soon there's going to be released a diversity receiver module, which will give you 2 receivers, 2 dual diversity receivers that you can take out. You can take out this receiver module and put in those diversity receiver modules, and so then you get that same versatility that the Skyzones give you in terms of range and in terms of where you can fly. The faceplate built in, comes with it, is also a very nice feature. I love how it stretches and fits over your entire face, and the fan keeps away the fogging. These guys, you can get the faceplate for them, and it'll work with them, but the rubber eye cups are just not as efficient or as comfortable as this faceplate is. The other thing is batteries. The Skyzones, and I believe they do not come with a battery, right, Shane? No, they do not come with a battery. But they can accept from 2 to 6S power. These FatSharks, they do come with a battery. They come with a 760 milliamp hour. It's such an odd amount. 760 milliamp hour battery that is 2-cell, and it just plugs in here. And the Dominator HD V2s come with an 1800 milliamp hour battery, 2-cell, and it gives you a little battery LED indicator. The Dominator HD V2s, I might tell you guys, does not come with this module. For $520, you get the goggles, the battery, your RCA and HDMI cables. The RCA one's downstairs, so I don't have it to show you guys right now. You get your traditional FatShark, cleaning cloth, and you also get a few adapters for the HDMI, as well as a charging cable for the battery. So with that purchase, with the purchase of the Dominator HD V2s, you do not get this receiver module, because a lot of people like to use just a base station, so they wouldn't have any use for this receiver module. However, I think these are good goggles. They're really expensive. I paid $600 for my entire bundle, which got me this, the diopters, the goggles, an extra battery, and a good antenna. However, as I've said before, it's not a budget-friendly option. The budget-friendly option, and if you've got a little bit more money than $200 to spend on the hobby, and you want to get into FPV, this is a good budget-friendly beginner option. But the Attitude V3s are going to give you, the Attitude V3s or the Skyzone V2s are going to give you a nice, well-rounded FPV experience. The Dominator HD V2 and the Dominator V3 are going to give you the top-of-the-line experience. So, that's it overall. You guys can make up your own minds, and of course, there's always this. As I've said, cheap goggles, goggles, goggles. I put them in line. If I were to go, if I were just getting into the hobby, if I were doing this, knowing what I know now, I would go with the Skyzone V2s or the Attitude V3s. I love the Dominator HDs. They're a great set of video goggles, but if you don't want to spend $520, you can go with this medium range. I'm Julian Waters, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Happy flying, and I'm going to be having lots more FPV videos to come. I'm going to be doing a how to be safe doing long-range FPV, which I think with all of the drone hype and controversy recently, I think that'd be a good thing to do, is learn how to fly FPV safely in an area that you might not necessarily know what's going on. So, happy flying. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. And the Skyzones have a resolution of, I don't know what the resolution is.
54 by 480.
Teleporter V4s have a 320, they've got a 340 by... So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution of 320 by 480 TV lines.
No!
No! Pixels! TV lines. What am I talking about? So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution of 320 by 480. So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution... So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution of 320 by 240. The Dominator HD V2...
God.
So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution of 320 by 2... Okay. So the Teleporter V4s have a resolution...
Your face is all red. It's all red.